Hello, I am God. I would like to talk about Death Note. Many years ago, I used to own a DVD box set of Death Note, um, and I was a big fan of it actually. Um, this is before I found out that I'm God, and since then, which was I found out probably about 2019, 2020, and since then, I've learned about magic. I've learned how magic is used to siphon my energy. Tarot, astrology, art, and Death Note was sort of a part of my awakening to who I am in a sense um because of well the thing is I use social media, and my social media is sort of like a Death Note in a sense. Um or sort of it's kind of similar. It's not the same thing. The thing is that I'm God. What I do affects everything in the world. Um, and so people die, and people go to war, people fight, people argue, people mimic. See, this is really the problem. Is the thing that is people mimic me. They try to impersonate me. They try to pretend they're me because they want to be me. So let me talk about Death Note. It's a very interesting story, and I can explain some of the magic of it. I want to keep this video less than an hour because I haven't really got a lot of time to talk about it. So Death Note, I'm a Scorpio. So if you know astrology, yeah, the zodiac wheel, I'm a Scorpio. I was born the 14th of November, 1987, in Scotland, in Aberdeen. Um, and Scorpio is associated with the death card in the tarot deck. So death, it could be a literal death, like someone dies and goes, gets buried in gets put in a coffin or cremated or something like that. That could be a death. Or death can mean transformation. So the old you dies, and the new you is born. Like Jesus said, which is who I was, says, you have to be born again. Okay. Um, so, um, the idea of Death Note is, Light Yagami, who's the main character, he obtains a book that falls out of the sky, which is called a Death Note. What's called a Shinigami, which is basically like, a Shinigami has wings. It's sort of like a Japanese version of an angel or a demon or something. Drops a notebook which has all these rules in it, which if the user follows those rules, they can use the notebook to kill people. And so Light, he decides he wants to be the god of the new world. And what happens is that he kills people that he deems to be evil, criminals and people like that. And obviously he uses it to kill people who try to get in his way as well. And so he gets chased by police and detectives. There's the main detective called L, and if you don't know, L is the word for God. Okay. um in is it Phoenician or Hebrew, L means God. That's this generic way of saying God, and it means singular. God of the Bible, that's me. One of the names that I was called was Elohim, which is Elohim, 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 and that means gods. That's plural. Um, so Yeah, because there's only one God. People like to invent all kinds of gods and all kinds of names, and they try to pretend that there are hundreds or thousands or millions of gods, which is total crap. But people will invent stories in order to siphon energy. That's what they do. That's what humans do. That's what humans are guilty of. Trying to steal God's power and authority. And that results in chaos and destruction and death and disease and famine and poverty. I keep explaining these things, and people don't seem to get it through their thick skulls that seem to contain shit. You've got doo-doo brains. Yeah. So the interesting thing about Death Note, from my perspective, from watching it, is really, people think, oh well, people like, people who watch it, they think, oh, Light's really cool. He's a cool character. It's a really interesting story. He's got really interesting power. But everyone thinks he's evil. The world wants to. It's only at the end of Death Note where people are like, oh, some people are, they worship Kira, and they say, oh, he's God, and we should, he wants to get rid of evil people, and the way it's portrayed is that's the way it's portrayed. Um, you know, whoever wrote that, the guy who wrote that, it wasn't interesting. The rule in the Death Note is you can't kill someone unless you know what they look like. You don't know. You need to know their name, and you need to know what their face looks like. And so the writer of Death Note, the original, the creator, the guy who first created Death Note, the manga series, he was a guy called Sugumi Oba, I think, and that's his name. And no one knows what he looks like. Fascinating, isn't it? Um, but he's guilty of witchcraft and spell work. That's basically what he's done. He's used witchcraft to attack God. That's basically what he's done. Um, and that's what he's guilty of. So what else can I say? Um, yeah. So people think that light is evil. So I mean, this is the problem. It's witchcraft. Why is it witchcraft? Well, El means God, and light. God. Jesus was the one who said, "I am the light of the world." Yeah. In Japan, they call Japan the land of the rising sun. Yeah. That's all magic. If you know anything about tarot, major arcana, the eighth card, what you eat, the land, the shit, right, is Leo, which is connected with the sun card is Leo as well. So, there's all this magic to steal, it's shit magic. For instance, people who claim to be rainbow people, whether they're gay or they're of color, um, you know, you know, is brown a rainbow? This is it's butt magic. That's what it is, right? Because someone who's got a rainbow butt shit brown stuff, don't they? So that's part of the magic. So people are doing all this crazy magic, and it's really annoying to have to deal with it. For me. And that's why there's so much chaos in the world. That's why, um, yeah. Anyway, what else can I say? So, about Death Note, people want to claim that Kira is evil. Well, this is the thing. I'm God. I'm judging the world. The world is evil, and a lot of people in the world deserve to die. So, that's what's happening. And people want to call me evil for why would God want to kill a bunch of evil people? Oh, wow, God must be evil. This is the problem. This is the problem of all of this. People deserve to be judged. There are a lot of people who deserve to die. And that's what's so interesting about Death Note is how people react to someone who has the power of a god. There are all these evil people who were dying, and then all the police and the detectives, they're like, oh, look at all these evil prisoners, these someone's killing them, like, what's happening? They never stop to think, like, oh, maybe God's judging evil people and he's getting rid of them. It's really interesting how the story it works, isn't it? um if we were living, we're living in a world, if it was really obvious that someone was just killing one person after another, after another, after another, after another, how would people react? Would they say, oh, whoever's doing that must be evil, therefore we better track them down and sentence them to death because they deserve to go to jail, they deserve the electric chair or whatever because of what they're doing? And what happens if someone does that and it turns out that the person who's doing that is actually God? What are you gonna do? Crucify him again? Is that what you're gonna do for doing what God wants? God created the universe. God created the world. God gave you life. Um, and when God says he's coming back to judge the world, and he comes back to judge the world, and he wants to get rid of a bunch of people that he can't, that will never ever have a relationship with him. There are people who only want to attack God, and God says, right, I'm not letting you attack me anymore. I'm going to wipe you out. Bye. You're gone now. You're dead. Yeah. Tough shit. You were given thousands of years to have a relationship with me. You were given a lot of time and a lot of opportunities to get it right with me, and you didn't bother. So now you're going to die. You're going to hell. And that's that. And if you don't like it, tough shit. Um, that's it. You're gone. Bye bye. And that's the other thing about anime is, there's all kinds of magic in there. For instance, my ex-girlfriend, she was called Ania Bilak. Her name's spelled Ania. Now, anime, anime, Ania, or anima sola. If you know anything about that, there's that image of a woman burning in flames, bound in chains, and some people pray to her. It's a practice which is, it originates from South Americans. South America, um, there are, and obviously it's spread across the world, right? Various people, but it's like sort of a Catholic South American thing. Um, like they also like to pray to, Santa Muerte, which is basically the Virgin. It's dead Virgin Mary. It's the skeleton of Virgin Mary, basically. Like she's the Grim Reaper. Um, and so people do all sorts of crazy stuff, don't they? Yeah, they worship all kinds of crazy things that they shouldn't. And they're really asking for trouble. That's really what they're doing. They're asking for trouble. Um, why the hell would you want to pray to a woman burning in hell in chains in purgatory? I mean, you're wondering what's that about? Why would you want to do that? How does that make any sense? What kind of sick person are you? Is there something wrong with you? Instead of having a relationship with God, you want to pray and have a shrine to a woman burning in hell. You know what I mean? Like, what's the logic? Where's the logic? Do you know what I mean? It doesn't make sense. It's sick. It's evil, is what it is. But there's all sorts of weird magic with that because anima sola means lonely soul. And this is why people, they want me to be lonely. They want me to be on my own. They don't want to listen to me. Who is it who defeats Light in Death Note? Oh, it's that detective called Near. Yeah. So if I, showed you a map of where I live and I drew a 1 mile radius around where my house is, you could say all those people that are around me are near. And they're all here to defeat me and kill me. Yeah, that's exactly what they're trying to do. Not to mention, N is the 14th letter of the alphabet, which also happens to be the house that's next door to me. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Um, the world loves to try to portray God as being evil, to twist the story and say God's evil, he deserves to die, we should crucify him, or we should set him on fire, or burn him, or kill him, or arrest him, or imprison him, or ruin his life. Yeah, that's what people love to do. That's what they love to do, using all kinds of horrible, shitty magic against me. And the result of that is a lot of death and a lot of suffering. And I try my best. I try my best. I really do. I'm tired. I'm tired of explaining to a bunch of idiots. Anyway, what else can I say about Death Note? I mean, that's the thing in Japan. The word for God is kami. I mean, the thing is in Japan, in the Japanese Shinto religion, I mean they don't believe in one God. They believe in all kinds of crazy gods and stories and demons and shit. Basically, yeah, they believe in all kinds of crap, a bunch of nonsense. Um, they do a bunch of witchcraft. What is manga? What does manga mean? Mangay. I mean, if you looked at the symbol for manga, it's like a burning thing. It's either like a burning altar or like it's like a burning fire, or or it's the sun, and it's got a cross over it, and it says manga on the cross. How many people have you ever heard say, "Oh, Jesus is gay"? Manga, yeah. Um, yeah. Anyways, I feel like, is there anything I really else I want to say? I'm really bored of talking about it, to be honest. I've explained. Um, I don't really want to keep explaining things that I've explained before in other videos. I've made a lot of videos explaining. I don't really like having to repeat myself again and again and again and again and again and again. It's boring and it's time consuming. I don't have the time for it. Um, what does it say in the book of Revelation? It talks about those people who, they try to hide, They went into the mountains, into the caves of the mountains, calling for the rocks to fall on them, to hide them from the face of the Lamb that sits on the throne and rules day and night. Yeah, that's exactly what the world is doing, hiding from God. That's me. Using witchcraft and sorcery. If you read the book of Revelation, it talks about how people keep using witchcraft and sorcery, and they keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it. They just keep doing it. They don't want to stop. It's all about what is witchcraft? It's all about siphoning energy from God for manifestation purposes. Saying, "Oh, it's pretending to be God. It's mimicking. That's all it is. Mimic, 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 mimic." I mean, look at the game Street Fighter as an example. There are two British characters. There's probably a couple of British characters I can think of in the Street Fighter series. I used to play a lot of Street Fighter. There's that really good Street Fighter player called Daigo. Have you ever heard of him? Daigo Umahara, called the Beast. Yeah, you can find him on YouTube. Um, but yeah, I mean, characters that you can play as in the game of Street Fighter. The main one, well, the British one, she's called Cammy, and Cammy means God. Um, you know, King Charles III, he's married to a woman called Camilla. Cammy is a short way of saying Camilla. Cammy is a short way of saying Camilla. But Cammy is another way of saying came me, right? I'm God. I'm the second coming of Jesus Christ. Came me. Yeah, I came. Me came. I came. Yeah, I fucking arrived. I'm here. I've been here for 38 fucking years, and no one wants to fucking know. Do they? No, they don't. So 9/11, or the 2004 tsunami that hit Asia, or 2011, or earthquakes that are hitting here, there, and everywhere. The economy is looking bad. People are poorer. There's death, there's war. No one fucking cares. I say I'm God, and people don't care. They're like, whatever, man. Don't care. Okay, then. I'll die then. For all I care. I don't care. I'm simply pointing out who I am. And I'm actually at the point now. I'm almost 39 years old. I hate my life. I would rather go. I would rather leave this horrible world full of horrible people. And I'll go back to where I came from, and I'll let in who I want to let in, and that'll be it. And all the horrible, shitty people can fuck off somewhere else. The hell. It's interesting. I mean, the connection, the magic that's in Death Note. I went through all the episodes. I watched it all. I started watching. I started from episode 1 yesterday, and I finished episode 37 this morning. Um, and yeah, it's just reading the numbers and seeing how it matches with the numbers in the major arcana of the tarot deck, as an example. Um, it's death magic. It's um, there's all kinds of magic in there. And there's actually a scene with Nier, the character Nier, where you see him. Well, he uses tarot cards. There's a scene where he's put tarot cards all around him in a ring. So he's inside a ring of tarot cards, and they're all face down. And he flips the first card over, and it's the death card. And then he flips the next card over, and it's the devil card. So, the reason I wanted to talk about Death Note, the fact is that a lot of people are going to die. A lot of people are being judged. A lot of people are going to die. Lots of disasters are going to happen. Um, and the fact is that, we're at this point now where it's like you either get to accept God for who he is, or you don't. And it's that simple. There's going to be a lot of chaos. There's going to be a lot of destruction. There are a lot of people who deserve to die. There are a lot of people who deserve to go to hell. Yeah, they go into the lake of fire, right? They deserve to suffer for their evil ways, and you either accept that or you don't. And it's nothing it's nothing I haven't said before. I've been talking about this for years, so yeah, that's enough. I'm done with this video, so I'm gonna end it here.